You know that feeling when you walk away from a conversation thinking, why was that so awkward? Here's the truth. Most of us were never actually taught how to have a good conversation, and that matters more than you think. This is the English Conversation Podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Mike. We talk about real life topics in natural English, the way people actually speak in everyday conversation.
Today, we're talking about something everyone struggles with, but rarely admits.
Communication.
I know, it sounds basic, but it's not, is it?
It's really not. I was thinking about this the other day. I had dinner with an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in maybe 2 years, and the whole time we were sitting there, I kept feeling like I wasn't saying the right things.
How do you mean?
Like, I'd ask a question and then I'd realize I wasn't really listening to the answer because I was already thinking about what to say next.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Right? And afterward, walking home, I just felt this disappointment with myself. Not because the evening was bad, it wasn't, but because I kept noticing these little moments where I could have been more present, more curious, more me.
Yeah, I think that's what gets me the most. It's not the big dramatic conversations that haunt you, it's the small ones, the ones that should be easy, and you walk away thinking, why was that so hard?
Exactly.
And I think part of it is that we don't really think about how much our lives are just built from conversations. Every relationship you have, every friendship, every connection with a colleague or family member, it's not one big moment. It's hundreds of small conversations that happen over time.
Yeah, that's true.
And those conversations, the way we show up in them, the tiny choices we make about how we talk and listen, what we say and don't say, all of that slowly shapes the quality of our relationships and, honestly, the quality of our whole lives.
That's kind of a heavy thought.
It is, but it's also kind of hopeful, I think, because if small changes in how we communicate can shift things, then we're not stuck. We can get better at this.
Right. I mean, most of us have never actually been taught how to have a good conversation. We just kind of do it. We stumble through it.
Yeah, we learn by doing and by making mistakes and by feeling regret.
So I've been thinking about why conversations feel so different from other things we do. And I think it's because they're unpredictable in a way that most other communication isn't.
What do you mean?
Well, like if you're writing an email or giving a presentation at work, you're kind of in control, right? You can plan what you're going to say, you can edit it, you can think about the order. And the other person is mostly just receiving what you're giving them. But a conversation isn't like that. It's not a performance. It's something you're building together with another person in real time. And you can't control what they're going to say or how they're going to react. So every conversation has this kind of fragile, uncertain quality to it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's co-created.
Exactly. And I think that's why it feels so awkward sometimes. Because you're not just responsible for your own part, you're also responding to theirs, and they're responding to yours. And it's this constant back and forth where anything could happen.
And that's terrifying.
It really is, yeah.
I mean, I think that's why people often prefer texting, right? Because you have time to think, you have time to edit, you're not under pressure in the same way.
Yeah, but then you lose something, don't you? You lose the warmth, the spontaneity, the feeling of actually connecting with someone in the moment.
You do, and I think that's the trade-off. Conversations are harder, but they're also richer. They're where real connection happens.
So if conversation is something we're building together, then both people have to be kind of invested in it, right? Like it can't just be one person doing all the work.
Absolutely, and I think that's where a lot of conversations fall apart. When one person is trying really hard to keep things going, and the other person is just kind of checked out, giving short answers, not asking anything back.
That's the worst.
It is. It makes you feel like you're pulling teeth, like you're annoying them just by trying to talk.
Yeah, and then you start overthinking everything. Should I stop talking? Am I being too much? Maybe they don't want to be here.
And sometimes they don't, to be honest. Sometimes people are just not in the mood, or they're distracted, or they're dealing with something else. And that's okay. But I think it would be so much easier if we could just be honest about that instead of pretending.
Right, like, hey, I'm not really in a good headspace for a deep conversation right now. Can we catch up later?
Exactly. That would be so much kinder than just disengaging and making the other person feel weird about it.
You know what I've noticed? I think we treat conversations like they should just happen naturally, like we don't need to think about them or prepare for them at all.
What do you mean by prepare?
Well, think about it. If you're meeting someone for dinner, you probably spend time thinking about what to wear, right? You might plan the restaurant, think about what time to leave, check the weather.
Yeah.
But do you ever spend even 30 seconds thinking about what you might actually talk about?
Honestly, no, I never do that.
Right. And then you show up and there's this awkward silence and you're both scrambling for something to say. And you end up talking about the weather or asking the same boring questions you always ask.
So, how's work?
Exactly. How's work? How's your family? Seen any good movies lately?
Oh, God, I hate that I do this.
We all do it. But I think if we just spent a tiny bit of time before a conversation thinking, okay, what do I actually want to know about this person? What's happening in their life that I'm curious about? It would make such a difference.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not about scripting the whole conversation, but just having a couple of topics in your mind, things you genuinely care about, so you're not starting from zero.
I think this is especially true when you're seeing someone you haven't talked to in a while. Like if I'm meeting a friend I haven't seen in 6 months, I could just show up and wing it. Or I could think for a moment, okay, last time we talked, they mentioned they were thinking about changing jobs, or they were stressed about something with their family, or they were excited about a trip they were planning.
Right, and then you can actually follow up on those things instead of just asking generic questions.
Exactly. And people really notice that, When you remember something they told you before and you ask about it, it makes them feel seen, like you were actually paying attention.
Yeah, that's such a small thing, but it means a lot.
It does. And honestly, I think this is true even with people you see all the time. Like if you have dinner with your family every week and it's always the same people, it can be so easy to fall into the same repetitive conversations.
Oh, God, yes. How was your day? Fine. Yours? Fine.
Yeah, and then everyone just sits there eating in silence or looking at their phones.
Which is depressing.
It really is. But I think if you prepare just a little bit, like, okay, what's something interesting I could ask? What's something I'm actually curious about? Then the conversation becomes more alive.
Yeah, curiosity's the key, I think. Because if you're genuinely curious about someone, the questions come naturally. But if you're just going through the motions, it's obvious and it feels hollow.
So, okay, let's say you've thought about topics, you've got a couple of things in mind, you start the conversation. What happens next?
Are you asking me to have a conversation about having conversations?
I guess I am, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think once you've asked a question, the real skill is in how you follow up.
Right, because it's easy to ask one question and then just move on to the next thing, like you're checking boxes.
Exactly. But if you stay with the topic a little longer, if you ask follow-up questions, the conversation gets so much deeper and more interesting.
Can we try that? Like actually do it?
You want to demonstrate?
Yeah, why not? Let's say I ask you something and you keep asking follow-ups and we'll see how far we can go.
Okay, I'm in.
All right, so Sarah, have you read anything good lately?
Yeah, actually. I just finished this novel that a friend recommended to me, and I wasn't sure I'd like it, but I kind of couldn't put it down.
Oh, really? What was it about?
It was about this woman who moves back to her hometown after her mother dies, and she's trying to sort through all these old memories and figure out who she is now, separate from her family.
What made it hard to put down?
I think it was the way it was written. It felt very quiet and internal, but also very honest. Like the main character wasn't trying to be likable, she was just trying to be real.
That sounds kind of intense. Did it remind you of anything in your own life?
Yeah, actually. I mean, I haven't lost a parent, but I have that feeling sometimes of going back to places or people from your past and realizing how much you've changed, and how strange it is to be around people who still see you the way you used to be.
That's interesting. Do you think it's possible to actually change how people see you, or are we kind of stuck with those old versions?
Okay, now you're getting philosophical.
I know, but see what just happened? We started with, have you read anything good? And now we're talking about identity and whether people can change.
Yeah, that's wild. And it felt natural. It didn't feel forced.
Exactly. That's what follow-up questions do. They take you deeper.
And I think the reason that worked is because you were actually listening to what I was saying, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Right, which is harder than it sounds.
It really is. I mean, I think most of us think we're good listeners, But if we're honest with ourselves, we're often just hearing the words without really taking them in.
Yeah, there's a difference between hearing and listening.
There is. And I'd even say there's a difference between listening and showing that you're listening.
What do you mean?
Well, like you can be listening in your head, you can be thinking about what the person is saying, but if you're not giving any signals that you're engaged, they might feel like you're not paying attention.
Oh, like body language and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Eye contact, nodding, those little sounds we make, leaning in slightly, all of that tells the other person, I'm here, I'm with you, keep going.
And without that, even if you are listening, it can feel cold.
Yeah. I remember once I was talking to my partner about something that was really stressing me out, and he was sitting there looking at his phone, and I asked him if he was listening, and he said yes, and he actually repeated back everything I just said.
So he was listening.
He was, but I still felt unheard, because even though he could recall the facts, he wasn't showing me that he cared. He wasn't looking at me, he wasn't giving me any warmth or presence.
Yeah, that would hurt.
It did, and I think that's the thing. People don't just want to be heard, they want to feel heard. And that requires something more than just your ears. It requires your attention, your body, your energy.
I think this happens in work settings too. Like you're in a meeting and someone is presenting an idea and people are listening, but they're also checking emails on their laptops or they're thinking about the next thing on their to-do list.
Right, and then the person presenting can feel it, can't they? They can feel that no one is really there.
Yeah, and it's discouraging. It makes you not want to share ideas anymore.
Absolutely. And I think one of the simplest ways to show you're listening is just to repeat back what someone said in your own words.
Like, what I'm hearing is.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you're feeling stressed about this deadline, is that right? It's such a small thing, but it lets the other person know that you actually understood them, and it gives them a chance to clarify if you got it wrong.
And it also slows the conversation down a little bit, which I think is good because a lot of the time we're rushing. We're trying to get through the conversation quickly so we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and then nothing actually lands. You talk, but you don't connect.
I think that's what makes conversations feel disappointing sometimes. It's not that they go badly, it's just that they don't go anywhere. They stay on the surface.
Yeah, and we walk away feeling a little bit empty, a little bit lonely, even though we just spent time with someone.
Yeah.
I think one thing we don't talk about enough is how boring conversations can be sometimes, and how much that actually damages relationships.
Boring?
Yeah, like we talk a lot about conflict, about arguments and disagreements, and those are hard, but honestly, I think boredom is worse in a way.
How so?
Because when you're fighting with someone, at least there's energy there, right? You care enough to be upset. But when you're bored in a conversation, when you're just going through the motions and you can't wait for it to be over, that's a kind of disconnection that's really hard to come back from.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that, but you're right. Boredom is a quiet killer.
It is, and I think it happens more often than we admit. Like, how many conversations have you been in where you're just waiting for the other person to stop talking?
More than I'd like to admit.
Right? And it's not always because the person is boring. Sometimes it's just that the conversation itself has no life in it. There's no curiosity, no warmth, no playfulness.
No levity.
Exactly. Levity. That's a good word for it.
So, what does that mean, though? Like, when you say levity in a conversation, what does that look like?
I think it's about bringing a little lightness, a little warmth, maybe a gentle sense of humor. Not jokes, necessarily, not like you're trying to be a comedian, but just not taking everything so seriously.
Right, because conversations can get really heavy really fast, especially if you're talking about work or responsibilities or problems.
Yeah, and there's a place for serious conversations, obviously, but I think even in serious moments, you can have small moments of lightness that make the conversation feel more human, more bearable.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, so let's say you're talking to a friend and they're telling you about a stressful situation at work, and it's all very tense and heavy. You could just nod and say, that sounds really hard, and that's fine, that's supportive. But you could also add something small, like, okay, that sounds awful and I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Also, can we acknowledge how ridiculous it is that they scheduled a meeting at 8 a.m. on a Monday? And suddenly there's this little moment of shared frustration that's almost funny, and it makes your friend feel like you're on their side, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's not making fun of them, it's making fun of the situation with them.
Exactly. It's being in it together. And I think that kind of warmth, that little bit of playfulness, it's what keeps conversations from feeling like work.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we're so afraid of saying the wrong thing that we become really stiff and formal, and that actually makes the conversation worse.
It does. It creates distance instead of closeness.
You know what else creates distance? When someone dominates a conversation and doesn't give anyone else space to talk.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
Right? Like you're in a group, maybe it's a family dinner or a meeting at work, and there's one person who just talks and talks and talks, and everyone else is just sitting there waiting for them to take a breath.
And they never do.
They never do. And what's interesting is I don't think these people always realize they're doing it. I think they might genuinely believe they're just being enthusiastic or contributing to the conversation.
Yeah, or they might be someone who feels like they need to prove themselves, so they fill every silence with their own voice.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I've been reading about this idea of status in conversations, and it's not about money or job titles. It's more about feeling respected or valued in a group.
Okay.
And I think some people talk a lot because they're trying to maintain or increase their status. They want to be seen as interesting or knowledgeable or important. But the irony is the more they dominate, the less people actually respect them.
That's true. Like nobody walks away from a conversation with someone who talked for an hour straight and thinks, wow, what an amazing person.
No, they think, wow, I'm exhausted.
Exactly.
But I think what's interesting about status is that it's not fixed. It changes depending on the topic.
How do you mean?
Well, like if you're in a group of people and someone starts talking about gardening and you know a lot about gardening, suddenly your status goes up in that moment because you have knowledge that's relevant.
Right?
But then if the conversation shifts to, I don't know, cryptocurrency and you know nothing about that, your status goes down and someone else becomes the expert.
So status is kind of fluid. It moves around.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the best conversations are the ones where status is shared, where everyone gets a chance to be the knowledgeable one, or the funny one, or the one with an interesting story.
But that requires people to actually make space for each other.
It does. And I think one of the simplest ways to do that is through eye contact.
Eye contact.
Yeah, like if you're in a group and someone hasn't said anything in a while, you can look at them and kind of invite them into the conversation without saying anything.
Oh, like a nonverbal, hey, what do you think?
Exactly, and people really notice that. It makes them feel included, like they're actually part of the conversation instead of just watching it happen.
Yeah, I've had that experience where I'm in a group and I'm trying to say something, but there's no opening. And then someone looks at me and says, Mike, you've been quiet. What's your take on this? And suddenly I have permission to speak.
And that's such a gift, isn't it? To be given that space.
It really is.
I think the hard part is when you're the person who has to redirect the conversation away from someone who's dominating.
Yeah, that's awkward.
It is, because you don't want to be rude, but you also don't want the whole evening to be one person's monologue.
So what do you do?
I think you can do it gently. Like, if someone's been talking for a while, you can wait for them to pause, and then you can say something like, "That's really interesting. I'm curious what everyone else thinks about this." And then you look at someone else.
So you're not shutting them down, you're just opening it up.
Yeah, exactly. You're making it clear that other voices are welcome too.
That's smart. I should try that.
I mean, it doesn't always work. Some people will just keep talking no matter what you do. But at least you tried, and the other people in the group will probably appreciate it even if they don't say anything.
Yeah, they'll know you were thinking about them. Speaking of giving people space, what do you think about interruptions?
Oh, that's a complicated one.
Is it?
Yeah, because I think there are different kinds of interruptions, and some of them are actually okay, and some of them are really disrespectful.
Okay, break that down for me.
All right, so let's say you're telling me a story about something that happened to you, and in the middle of it, I say, "Oh my God, wait, did this happen at that coffee shop on 5th Street?" That's an interruption, but it's an on-topic interruption. I'm engaged with what you're saying. I'm trying to understand it better.
Right, so it feels like participation, not disruption.
Exactly. And I think in a lot of cultures, especially in more casual settings, that kind of interruption is actually a sign of connection. It's like I'm so interested in what you're saying that I can't help but jump in.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Me too. But then there's the other kind of interruption, where you're telling me something and I just completely change the subject to talk about myself or something totally unrelated.
I hate that.
Right? Like you're in the middle of a sentence and someone just cuts you off and says, "Speaking of coffee, did I tell you about the cappuccino I had in Italy?" And suddenly the conversation's about them and your story's just gone.
Yeah, and you can't really go back to it without sounding petty, so you just let it go. But it stings a little bit.
It does, because it sends this message that what you were saying wasn't important enough to finish.
So, what do you do if that keeps happening? Like, if you're talking to someone who always interrupts you in that way?
I think you can gently call it out, not in an aggressive way, but just honest.
Like, how?
Well, like if it just happened, you could say something like, "Hey, I actually wasn't finished with that thought. Can I just wrap it up real quick?" And then you finish what you were saying.
That feels scary, though.
It does, but I think it's scarier to just keep swallowing it and feeling unheard every time you talk to that person.
Yeah, that's fair.
And honestly, most people don't realize they're doing it. They're not trying to be rude, they're just not paying attention to the flow of the conversation.
Right, they're thinking about what they want to say instead of listening.
Exactly. So sometimes just pointing it out, kindly, can actually help them become more aware.
And if they get defensive?
Then that's information too. It tells you something about whether they're willing to make the conversation work for both of you or if it's always going to be on their terms.
You know what's weird? I feel like we've been talking about all these small, specific things like interruptions and eye contact and follow-up questions, but really, we're talking about something bigger, aren't we?
What do you mean?
Like, we're talking about respect, about making people feel valued, about paying attention to the tiny moments that add up to whether someone feels good or bad after talking to you.
Yeah, isn't you right?
And it's kind of overwhelming when you think about it, because there are so many little things to be aware of, so many ways a conversation can go wrong.
There are, but I think the beauty of it is that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to care enough to try.
Yeah.
I think that's what kindness is in a conversation. It's not grand gestures, it's small adjustments. It's asking one more question instead of changing the subject. It's putting your phone down when someone is talking to you. It's noticing when someone seems uncomfortable and giving them an out.
What do you mean by giving them an out?
Well, like, let's say you're at a party and you're talking to someone, and you can tell they're not really enjoying the conversation. Maybe they're looking around the room or giving short answers.
Yeah.
You could just keep going and make it more and more awkward for both of you, or you could say something like, "Hey, I should probably let you go. I know you wanted to catch up with some other people. It was really nice talking to you."
So you're ending it before it gets painful.
Yeah, and you're doing it in a way that doesn't make them feel bad, like it's a mutual thing, not a rejection.
That's considerate.
I think so. And honestly, ending conversations is one of the hardest parts for me.
Oh, same.
Right? Like you're having a perfectly fine conversation, but you need to leave, or you're tired, or you just don't have anything else to say. And you're standing there trying to figure out how to exit gracefully.
And then you end up saying, well, I should probably like 5 times before you actually leave.
Yes. Well, I should probably get going. Yep. Okay. So, yeah. All right. Okay. Bye.
And then you do this weird halfway thing and walk away too fast.
Oh my God. Yes.
But seriously, why is that so hard?
I don't know. I think it's because we're afraid of hurting people's feelings or making them think we didn't enjoy talking to them.
Even when we did enjoy it.
Exactly. Like the conversation was great, but now it's time for it to be over, and there's no smooth way to say that without it feeling abrupt.
So what's the solution?
I think you just have to be honest, but kind. Like, "This has been really lovely. I'm so glad we got to catch up. I have to run, but let's do this again soon."
And mean it.
Yeah, that's the key. Don't say "let's do this again" if you don't actually mean it, because people can tell.
You know what I've been thinking about lately? How much we say things we don't mean just to be polite.
Like what?
Like, we should get coffee sometime when you have no intention of actually making plans. Or let me know if you need anything when you kind of hope they won't actually ask.
Okay, that's calling me out a little bit.
I'm calling myself out too. I do this all the time. And I think it comes from a good place. Like, we want to be nice, we want to seem caring, but it ends up being kind of hollow.
Yeah, it's performative kindness instead of real kindness.
Exactly.
And I think people can feel the difference, even if they can't name it.
I wonder if we'd have better conversations if we just said less but meant more.
What do you mean?
Like, instead of filling every silence with empty phrases, what if we just let there be quiet sometimes? And when we do speak, we make sure it's something we actually mean.
That would require being comfortable with silence, though.
It would, and I think most of us aren't.
I'm not. Silence makes me anxious in conversations. I feel like I have to fix it, fill it with something.
Yeah, me too. But I've noticed that some of my best conversations, the ones that actually meant something, they had silences in them, like pauses where we were both just thinking or feeling something, and we didn't rush to cover it up.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think those silences are actually connection in a way, because you're comfortable enough with that person to not perform, to just be there.
Can I ask you something that's been on my mind?
Of course.
Do you ever think about how the conversations you're having every day are shaping your life in ways you don't even notice?
What do you mean?
Like the way you talk to your partner when you get home from work, or the small exchanges you have with your kids, or the quick chats with colleagues. All of those tiny moments, they're not just isolated events, they're patterns that build over time.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes. It's kind of scary, actually.
It is, because if you're having the same shallow conversation with someone over and over again, that's what your relationship becomes. But if you're having conversations where you're actually present, where you're curious and kind, then that accumulates too.
So every conversation is either building connection or eroding it, even in small ways.
Yeah, and most of the time, we're not even aware of it happening.
I think that's what makes me sad about how I sometimes show up in conversations with people I love. Like, my partner will come home and want to tell me about his day, and I'm tired or I'm thinking about something else, and I give him this really minimal response, like, that's nice.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't care about him, it's just because I'm not present in that moment. But if I do that over and over again, day after day, what is that creating? What am I telling him without saying it?
That he's not a priority.
Yeah, even though he is.
And the scary thing is, I don't think it happens all at once. It's not like one bad conversation ruins everything. It's the slow accumulation of moments where you weren't really there.
Yeah, like 1,000 paper cuts instead of one big wound.
But I think the hopeful side of that is if small negative moments accumulate, then small positive moments accumulate too.
Yeah, that's true.
Like every time you ask a real question, every time you put your phone down and look someone in the eye, every time you remember something they told you and bring it up later, that's building something good.
It's building trust, I think, and closeness.
Yeah, and it's not dramatic. It's not something you'd post about on social media, but it's real.
It is.
You know what I'm realizing as we talk about all of this?
What?
That I'm never going to be perfect at any of it.
None of us are.
No, but I mean, we've talked about follow-up questions and listening and status and interruptions and kindness, and it's a lot to hold in your mind while you're actually having a conversation.
It is.
I think there's a danger in becoming so aware of all these things that you can't just relax and be yourself, Like, you're so busy monitoring your own behavior that you're not actually present.
Yeah, that's a real risk. I think the goal isn't to be perfect, it's just to be a little more conscious, a little more intentional.
And to forgive yourself when you mess up.
Yeah, because you will mess up. Everyone does.
I mess up constantly.
Same. Like, there are conversations I've had in the last week where I did everything we've talked about wrong. I interrupted, I didn't listen, I made it about me, I was distracted.
And how do you feel about that?
Not great, to be honest, but also I'm trying to have grace with myself. Like, I'm human, I'm tired sometimes, I'm overwhelmed sometimes, and I can't always show up the way I want to.
But you can try again next time.
Exactly. Every conversation is a new chance.
I think that's the thing people need to hear, that conversations are messy and people are imperfect, and that's okay.
Yeah, we're not robots following a script. We're humans trying to connect with other humans, and that's inherently complicated and unpredictable.
But also beautiful when it works.
It is. Those moments when you really connect with someone, when you have a conversation that leaves you feeling understood or energized or just less alone. Those moments are worth all the awkward ones.
They really are.
I keep coming back to this idea that we don't think about conversations enough, even though they're happening all day, every day.
Yeah, they're so ordinary that they become invisible.
Exactly. Like, we'll spend hours researching what phone to buy or what show to watch, but we don't spend even 5 minutes thinking about how we want to show up in the conversations that actually shape our relationships.
And those relationships are everything.
They are. I mean, at the end of your life, you're not going to remember the phone you bought or the shows you watched. You're going to remember the people you talked to and how they made you feel and how you made them feel.
That's heavy.
It is, but it's also kind of simple, isn't it? Like, the thing that matters most is also the thing we're doing all the time. We just need to pay more attention to it.
So, what does that actually look like day to day?
I think it looks like pausing for a second before you walk into a room where someone you care about is waiting and asking yourself, how do I want to be in this conversation? Do I want to be distracted, going through the motions, or do I actually want to be here?
And sometimes the answer is, I don't have the energy to be present right now.
And that's okay too, but at least you're making a choice instead of just defaulting to autopilot.
Yeah, there's something powerful about that.
I think the hardest part is accepting that you're never going to get it all right. You're going to have conversations you regret, you're going to miss opportunities to connect, you're going to hurt people without meaning to.
But you can still try?
Yeah, and you can apologize when you need to, and you can show up better next time, and you can keep learning.
And you can be kind to yourself about it.
Yes, that too.
You know what I appreciate about this conversation?
What?
That we didn't try to solve anything. We just talked about it, explored it.
Yeah, I think that's all you can really do with something like this. There's no formula, no perfect answer, just awareness and intention and grace.
And curiosity.
Always curiosity. What kind of conversations are you repeating every day? And what are they slowly creating in your life?
Thanks for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, really, thanks for listening, for spending this time with us.
We hope you have some good conversations ahead of you.
Take care of yourselves.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.